Hi everyone, and welcome to the CardioNerds Heart Rhythm TV coverage of Heart Rhythm Society 2025. My name is Sukriti Banthiya, and I'm a cardiology fellow at Henry Ford Providence and a CardioNerds Academy faculty. I'm thrilled today to be joined by Dr. Vetta to discuss the results from a real-world multi-center registry on the use of a focal Lattice catheter toggling between pulse field energy and radiofrequency for atrial arrhythmia ablation. Welcome, Dr. Vetta.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to be here.
The pleasure is all ours. Dr. Vetta has recently graduated from a clinical electrophysiology fellowship at UZ Brussels. Thank you so much again for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Dr. Vetta, at the outset, I'd like to ask you if you can provide us with a brief overview of pulse field energy and radio frequency and how they're integrated into the Sphere 9 catheter.
Well, the Sphere 9 catheter, it's with a Ferra system. It's a really nice system because we can, he has also an integrated 3D electroanatomical mapping that allow us also to do voltage and activation map. And one of the best thing of this catheter is that we can use both PFA and radiofrequency. As we know, this system is programmed to be used with PFA only on the posterior wall, for example, for the posterior wall ablation and also for the ablation of the posterior side of the pulmonary veins. Well, for the radiofrequency energy, we can use it on the anterior wall, on the CTI, where we want.
Wonderful. That sums it up pretty well. For our junior audiences, could you differentiate between pulse field energy and radio frequency for us?
Yes. So, for example, I'm a young EP, so I'm born actually like EP in the PFA area. So for me, it's easier to manage with PFA. But in a few words, we can say radiofrequency energy is like radiofrequency, so just burning the tissue, and this cannot allow us to be tissue selective. Instead, the PFA create with electric energy, with high intensity electric energy, allow us to perform tissue selective lesions on the myocardium, things that is not allowed from by the radiofrequency energy. So the main advantage of PFA is the tissue selectivity.
That was great. Thank you so much, Dr. Vetta. And now let's dive into the study. Could you tell us a little bit about the objectives of the study?
Yes, our study was a multi-center registry. The aim of our study was to evaluate the efficacy and the safety of the Sphere 9 catheter in a real-world scenario for the ablation of AFib in a first-time procedure or in a radio procedure. The endpoints of our study were acute efficacy and first-pass isolation with also procedural dwelling and ablation time. And as safety endpoints, we evaluated the major and overall complication related to the Sphere 9 catheter. So actually, the results of our study were really interesting because we confirmed, as in the preclinical and clinical studies, the high efficacy of the Sphere 9 catheter with a very high efficacy of the Sphere 9 with high success rate in PVI, posterior wall, with even a first pass isolation of 100%, and a very high efficacy also for the additional, the extra PV lesions with average first pass isolation of 92.6%. Going from the 100% of the roof and inferior line to the 84.4% first pass isolation in posterior mitral line.
That was a wonderful summary. Thank you, Dr. Vetta. And you talked a little bit about the efficacy and safety of the Sphere 9 catheter, but how does it compare to other available catheter technologies today?
So actually, in our study, we didn't do a comparison with other systems, but for example, I can say that we present here in HRS 2025 also a poster with a comparison with the high power short duration versus the Sphere 9 catheter, and we can say that the Sphere 9 catheter can allow us a higher first pass isolation and a shorter procedural dwelling, and also fluoroscopy time compared to the standard radiofrequency energy for PVI.
Wonderful. And could you walk our audience through some of the limitations that they should remember when reading the study?
One of the limitations that we have to evaluate is the fact that it's the first time that we were using this catheter. So I think our outcomes will be even improved in the next future, because it was the first time that we were using this catheter. Even if the operators that were using this catheter were experienced operator in AFib ablation with more than 300 AF ablation. But the use of this catheter, we are discovering every day the functionality, and also the, for example, we are evaluating every day better the contact force, because there is no contact force standard evaluation of contact force with the Sphere 9, but we can see with impedance the contact with the tissue, and this is something that we are focusing now.
That was great. And before we wrap up, I wanted to get your thoughts on, which patient population do you think that this technology would be best suited for? And what direction will research need to take to evolve and expand its application?
So, for example, in our center in UCL Brussels, we are using mainly for radio procedure, because it's Sphere 9 is fully integrated in a 3D electroanatomical mapping. So I think this system is better to be used in case of a radio procedure where we need a mapping system instead of first-time procedure, PVI only procedure. And I think for future directions to evaluate for this catheter is, of course, to go deeply in the use of the reversible pulse, the test pulse, that is like a reversible PFA application that can allow us to understand better the effect on tissue. For example, sometimes we use it in case we are ablating next to the conduction system. So in that case, we use a test pulse before to use a standard PFA application to evaluate if we have a PR elongation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much again for taking time to discuss this with us, Dr. Vetta, and I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the Heart Rhythm Society meeting.